Good evening. I call the joint meeting of the Ames City Council and Ames Human Relations Commission to order. We'll invite Cassandra and the chair of the AHRC to make a short presentation, and then we'll take any questions or input regarding the report.
Good evening, Council, Mayor.
Evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, council members and mayor.
Can you pull your mic just a little closer to you? Thank you.
Is this a little better?
That's good. Thanks.
Perfect. Good evening, council members, mayor, other staff members. My name is Annabella Marquez, and I'm the current chair of the Ames Human Relations Commission. Today, the commission will be presenting our annual report. However, as noted in the report, the Iowa Office of Civil Rights failed to send us their data regarding civil complaints here in Ames. I will be briefly speaking on the highlights of the commission during the year 2024. Firstly, my
You're very
apologies.
nicely soft spoken, but the mic doesn't. Thank you.
I'm like kissing the mic almost.
That's all right.
Firstly, the membership of the commission increased from 5 to 7 members in April. We also celebrated our 50th anniversary in October. We celebrated this anniversary in 2 ways. First, we had a tree planting ceremony in Moore Memorial Park. We also unveiled a brand new t-shirt, which I am wearing today. This t-shirt features 2 designs, one in the front and one in the back, made by 2 local artists from right here in town. Throughout the year, we have also attended and supported several events, such as the City of Ames Martin Luther King Day celebration, where we presented the Humanitarian Award. We also sponsored and participated in the 3rd annual Juneteenth celebration and participated in National Night Out. In December, we selected Latifa Faisal as the recipient of the 2025 Humanitarian Award. We have also held 2 quarterly meet and greets events for commissioners to get an opportunity to interact with the public. Another new item that the commission released was a coloring book featuring Ames Trailblazers, which was spearheaded by a former commissioner. We have given out these coloring books at community outreach events, including the Cape Mitchell Elementary School Multicultural Nights in both April and November. During the first year of the coloring books release, the commission has gave out 700 coloring books to the community. Lastly, we held a strategic planning retreat in June and are continuing discussions on revisions to the commission's mission statement and ordinance. This will conclude our annual report. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Annabella. Questions for Annabella or comments?
Well, I think it's interesting to point out, and Annabella mentioned it, but that this is the first year that we've gotten no data from the state office, the Iowa Office of Civil Rights. And I guess I find that concerning. We've been able to get data every year before this. We quit investigating our own cases of discrimination in Ames and turned that over to the state, in 2018 or so. But I don't know that we would have been so eager to do that if we would have known there would be a point at which we would get none of that information back, right? So,
But do we know why they haven't given it back?
well, it's a good question. They say in the report that we didn't get a clear reason for the refusal of our request from that office. So I don't know if it would be worth maybe a motion to have the mayor reach out. In fact, maybe I would make that motion if it's okay. I would move that the mayor reach out to the Iowa Office of Civil Rights and ask for the data we would like, or at least a reason for the failure to release that data.
A second.
All right. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Do we know, is that information public information? Because there's no personal information in there. Is that public information anyway?
From my understanding, it is public information because you're right. When we have received it in the past, it's very simple. It's concise. It doesn't have names. It's pretty much 5 complaints for housing, 2 for employment. There's been an appeal, something's been denied, something's in process, and that's about all we get.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that, I mean, how long has it been since we made the request?
Months.
Okay. Well, that's, it's inconsistent. We've always had it in the past. So
Go ahead.
Maybe you want to direct Mark, if they direct the city attorney to make a freedom of information request, I think that would be appropriate.
Oh, sure. Maybe that's the way to go.
Is that what it is? I think it's open
I
record.
mean,
Well, I
either
will
way-
also move to direct the city attorney to pursue a freedom of information request related to this topic.
Second.
Okay, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Mark, you and I can coordinate on that as well, too.
Thank you.
Right. Other questions or comments?
I just want to say how happy I am that you're embracing this role of education and engagement and outreach that we're, I guess, going to be working on expanding in the actual description of what the commission's remit is. And I am happy to see the results. I mean, those coloring books, I mean, this might seem like a small thing, but kids love those coloring books. I was really surprised by how many wanted them at events. And clearly, I only saw a very small example of that because I wasn't at all of the HRC events. But thank you for all that you've been doing, and please continue doing this great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just had a general question about whether or not you all thought it would be beneficial to have any type of professional development for the group. And if you've been thinking about that, of course, this is the time that we'll be thinking about budgets. And so if there is some particular training that the group would like to go through, or we would, that seems important given the type of work that you are doing, is to make sure that you are continually getting the tools that you need in order to be effective in what you're doing. So thank you again, though, for what you do.
Of course, and absolutely. And on that note, if I remember correctly, I think of September 2024, I didn't address this in the main portion of my little speech, but the legal aid of Story County, one attorney alongside another staff member came to one of our meetings and discussed a lot about landlord-tenant rights. So that I thank you for your suggestion.
Sure.
Any other questions? All right, and on behalf of council, thank you for what you do and your leadership, and looking forward to seeing your efforts increase in the future. All right, moving on to item number 2, discussion and modifications to municipal code, chapter 14, human relations. Cassandra?
Thank you. So since the strategic plan retreat that the AHRC had back in June of 2024, not only did we discuss the strategic plan, but its mission, chapter 14. And since then, the discussion of general revisions to chapter 14, in order for them to align with the AHRC's current practice and purpose, especially the part where it states that the HRC still conducts investigations, because it is around 2019 that they stopped doing that piece. So it was really starting to look at it from the perspective of, let's reassess. Does language need to be remodified? Does it read clearly? Is it understandable? And is it still serving the purpose of the outreach efforts that the HRC is doing?
Questions?
Would you speak to the issue of advocacy, and that was talked about some here, and what your thought is about how that will continue to be included in the work?
Yeah, so advocacy is still definitely a part of the mission, the purpose of the AHRC.
Okay.
It is never meant to be taken out. It is still definitely, I'm speaking for the HRC, but
Mhm.
I strongly believe that all commissioners still believe that that is definitely the purpose and mission of it,
Okay.
along with education and the outreach
Mhm.
efforts as well.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, we'll open up some public comment on this. We'd ask people to limit their comments to 3 minutes or less. And I have 3 cards, people interested in speaking. And Senator Cornbach, if you'd like to start us off, and then we'll proceed to a couple other ones. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you, Mayor Hagler, for the opportunity to speak. And thanks also to the City Council and the Human Relations Commission for your service. It's especially with regard to human rights, that equal rights and respect for all persons is fundamental to our democracy, our Constitution, and our society. I especially appreciate the emphasis of the Human Relations Commission on education and outreach. An ounce of prevention is in so many areas the best initial approach to a problem. Unfortunately, however, prevention doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to go beyond, and that's why we have laws and mechanisms to enforce laws. Since 2019 in civil rights, Ames has relied exclusively on the state law in Chapter 216 of the Code of Iowa. The city appears to have no ordinances of its own prohibiting discrimination of any kind. The Ames Human Relations Commission has delegated enforcement of civil rights complaints to the Iowa Civil Rights Commission, as noted a moment ago. At the time, that seemed a reasonable approach, but there are 2 recent changes that seem to me to merit a reconsideration. First, as enacted by the Iowa legislature last February, Senate File 418 eliminated gender identity as a protected class. It thereby legalized discrimination against transgender persons in housing, employment, public accommodations, and other areas. Ames has long opposed such discrimination, and gender identity is prominently mentioned in the Human Rights Chapter 14 of the City Code. However, after the passage of Senate File 418, Ames presently has no legal basis for preventing discrimination on the basis of gender identity. The second development of note is the passage of Senate File 2385 in 2024. That bill made many changes in state boards and commissions. In particular, it renamed the Iowa Civil Rights Commission as the Office of Civil Rights, and the name changes were just the beginning of the alterations. The powers and duties of the body were substantially restricted. Its ability to reach out and share information was limited. I think that probably is the source of the lack of communication that we've had from them. The thrust of those changes is described in the article that I've distributed there, written by Ralph Rosenberg. Most of us know Ralph. Ralph served as the director of the Iowa Civil Rights Commission from 2003 to 2010, and after representing Ames in the legislature from 1981 to 1995. The Human Rights Commission has already experienced new difficulties with the office, as explained on page 4 of your report and discussed a moment ago. In addition to the city code change requested by the Human Relations Commission, I would ask the commission and the council to consider directing the city attorney to develop language for 2 additional changes. The first would be to include as a city ordinance prohibitions against discrimination in all the activities in section 14.5 paragraph 1 of the city code. That's housing, employment, public accommodations, all of that usual list, against persons with characteristics listed in 14.5, which is to say everything usually listed, including now gender identity. The second change I'm recommending is to create procedures or to consider procedures to implement such an ordinance at the local level. In particular, a prohibition against gender identity discrimination would not now be enforced by the state level and would require a local procedure. It should be noted that under 216.19 of the Code of Iowa, cities in Iowa have the power to enact such ordinances, and indeed both Iowa City and Johnson County have such ordinances in place. Finally, Last night, I was watching part 2 of Ken Burns' documentary on the American Revolution. That's the segment that deals with the Declaration of Independence. You know, the assertions that all men are created equal and that they are endowed with inalienable rights were then as bold as they were then untrue, especially for Native Americans, for persons of color, both free and enslaved, and for all women. The forming of a more perfect union, the establishment of justice, the securing of the blessings of liberty have instead been the enduring task of the ongoing American Revolution, handed down through generations. We can take one more forward step in that process tonight. I would ask you to do so. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Lillian I'm going to butcher your name, Atchison. Is that right? Please.
Thank you so much. You're actually one of the only people who has pronounced my name correctly first try. So props to you for that one. Yeah, you should be proud. I would like to thank the council tonight for giving me the opportunity to speak here, and also to the Human Rights Commission for the work that you do. It is much appreciated.
Could you pull the mic just a little bit closer to you? I'm sorry.
Yes.
People can't hear sometimes in the back. Thanks.
Sure. Is this better?
That's great. Thank you.
Excellent. I am also here representing the Coalition for University Equity, a group just off campus of students not affiliated with Iowa State University. I would like to echo Senator Cornbach's comments and request that you strongly consider.
Now it went the other
This
way.
echo is bothering me. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I would like to request that you strongly consider the adoption of these changes or anything else that may need to happen to invoke these changes to protect all residents of Ames, as it is necessary for the cohesion of our community and for the safety of all involved. I deeply think that this is a necessary and important step, particularly as the commission mentions, the bodies that are supposed to be providing full information are not providing such for us to do what we need to do to keep our community, to keep our residents safe. I would urge that you all take due care to do research on this issue and to be careful with your time and resources when you are crafting a change in order to create positive effect for not only our transgender members of our city, of our communities, but also for everyone who is seeking a safe place to be here in Ames. Thank you.
Thank you. And Aaron O'Brien.
Am I a good distance away from the mic? Okay. Thank you for giving us the chance to speak. Thank you for hearing us out. I also represent the Coalition for University Equity. I am also a transgender student at Iowa State. I've been living and working in Ames for the past 2 years. This past summer, the state legislature's removal of gender identity protections from the Iowa Civil Rights Act has jeopardized my ability to stay in Ames. I and others like me do not want our presentations and identities to decide whether or not we can find homes and keep jobs. And I do believe that enshrining protections for gender identity in the city code could be what gives me and others like me the chance to stay in Ames, and I hope you'll consider doing so.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to offer public comment tonight on this? All right, we'll close public input. Discussion?
I like the suggestions that Herman brought forward. And I'm hoping that if I were just to move to direct Mark to do that that'd be clear enough. I don't remember all the language exactly, right? But I think the way Herman had it written was great. So
Would it be appropriate to maybe move to put this on a future agenda
yes.
or get a memo And
With,
then
yeah, a
and then
memo on a few.
Mark could kind of comment on that formally, and then we can put it on a future agenda for
Sure.
discussion and explore that. And maybe Herman, if you could give Mark your item, and also make sure that our recording secretary gets that information too. All right, there's a
In that case, yeah, I would move that we put this on a future agenda along with a memo from Mark.
Second.
all right. Any discussion?
So when we do this, it would be helpful if we could have an understanding of the cost of this. And Steve can clarify perhaps some of the background of the reason for that shift to investigation enforcement is because we felt that we did not have adequate resources to properly investigate and enforce these things. And so if we were to do this, I respectfully don't believe that we have the staffing to do this now. And so it would require additional staff in order to investigate and enforce. I don't know what that would take. So we have to consider the cost of this as well.
But wouldn't it also be expertise in this area too, staff and expertise?
Correct. Yeah.
You have anything on?
And I think along with that, Senator Cornbach mentioned creating the procedures to implement a change like this. So along with the financial wherewithal, I think just the complexity of the implementation might also be helpful. I don't know if that is Mark who would be looking at that or whether that's other staff, but it seems related to this bringing back of the memo.
And I had a chance to visit with Mark earlier today about the legality of how home rule interfaces with the legislature's decision to remove gender identity from the Iowa civil rights protections. And so it still remains a bit unclear to me, particularly when you look at Senate File 418. Did the legislature intend to withdraw, and I use the analogy, this is going back to COVID, did they intend to withdraw from the field and give municipalities the opportunity to legislate, in essence, in that space, to make regulations in that space? Or should this be construed as saying that they intentionally did not want regulations to be in this space? And I'm not sure I understand what that is. And so my fear a little bit is that where the legislature has been very clear about their concern with respect to gender identity, that in essence, we as a city would be inviting a confrontation with the legislature as we have done in the past. I don't know how long the Iowa City ordinance has been in effect. That might be a factor, but I would hope if we were going to pursue this kind of thing, that there would be some effort to reach out to the legislature, even informally, to find out if this is something that they believe that we have the ability to do, because it would be frustrating to go through all this work to change the Ames statute and then find that the legislature comes back and says, no, we really didn't want cities to regulate this area. So that would be helpful.
I would trust that would be part and parcel of Mark's research and memo. So,
Yep, great,
All right.
thanks.
all right. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right. Annabella, any closing comments?
Other than to thank you guys for your time and for listening to me and Cassandra today, I have no additional comments.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Movie adjourned?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The joint meeting of the Ames City Council and Human Relations Commission is adjourned, and we will now transition into the regular meeting of the Ames City Council. And first item on the agenda is a proclamation for National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. And Vanessa? Remove those other changes.
though. You moved all the other changes. They were requesting changes too, right?
National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week 2025. Whereas for the past 31 years, a national coalition for the homeless and National Student Campaign Against Hunger and Homelessness have sponsored National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. And whereas the purpose of the proclamation is to educate the public about the many reasons people are hungry and homeless, including a shortage of affordable housing in Ames for very low income residents, and to encourage support for homeless assistance service providers, as well as community service opportunities for students and school service organizations. And whereas there are many organizations committed to sheltering and providing supportive services, as well as meals and food supplies to the homeless, which include but are not limited to Assault Care Center Extending Shelter and Support, also known as Access, the Bridge Home, Food at First, Good Neighbor Emergency Assistance, Mid-Iowa Community Action, also known as MICA, Story County Community Services, the Hunger Collaboration, the Salvation Army, Story County Veterans Affairs, Youth and Shelter Services, also known as YSS, and various area nonprofits, agencies, churches, and food pantries. And whereas the focus of the National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week 2025 continues to be volunteer, donate, educate. And whereas the City of Ames recognizes that hunger and homelessness continue to be a serious problem for many individuals and families in Ames, and whereas the intent of the National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week is consistent with the commitment and dedication of the members of the Two Rivers Committee and the Homelessness Prevention Team to educate the community and provide the needed services and support to residents who suffer from hunger and or homelessness. Therefore, I, John A. Hala, Mayor of the City of Ames, Iowa, do hereby proclaim November 16th through 2025 as National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. On behalf of our community, I encourage all residents to recognize that many people do not have housing and need support from residents and private, public, nonprofit service entities. My pleasure to introduce Ms. Vanessa, and you'll have a few comments for us? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for recognizing National Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week. It's an important avenue in our community that we have a support financially and agencies who provide this much-needed service. And during the recent shutdown and the SNAP program, our community stepped up and made sure that we were providing food and shelter for those in need in our community. And this is very important to keep that awareness alive in our community. And I just wanted to thank the council and ASSET for their support of these agencies to provide this important benefit to our community. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to consent agenda. Does council wish to pull any item from consent tonight?
Mayor, I'd like to request that we pull 9 and 30, please.
All right, anything else? Entertain a motion to approve consent less item 9 and 30.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Betcher,
Aye.
Beatty Hansen,
Aye.
Rollins,
Aye.
Garten,
Aye.
Junk. Aye.
All right, Nita?
So number 9, I just wanted to make sure that that didn't get sort of buried in the list of consent items. This has to do with our standards of decorum and requiring those who speak to identify themselves. And this isn't meant to be punitive, but it is meant to make sure that we know members of our community are here speaking on the various issues, and it's a way to confirm that. So that was it. I just wanted to publicly make sure that people were aware that that was in there.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve item number 9?
I would move approval of item number 9.
Second?
Thank you. Roll call.
BD Hanson.
Aye.
Rollins.
Aye.
Barton.
Aye.
Junk. Aye. Betcher.
Aye.
And item number 30.
And then item number 30, there was a question about that area and access. And so I think Kelly is able to come and say a little bit about this. So the question that was raised was about on the map, the accepted areas and whether or not there would be access points. And we have moved away from, I guess, the original easements. And so it was possible then to have perhaps these areas be isolated in some way. But the person asking the question is also here if that would be helpful.
Yeah, let's get this image
on
up
the
first
screen.
and give everyone a little bit of a context, and then let Kelly speak, and then we can take input.
I mean, I guess I wouldn't mind hearing a more precise question than that.
Okay.
In the past, what we've talked about is the accepted parcels in the Plata survey mean that those property owners are not participating in the process of consolidating or moving property lines. So the Crane property and the Adams property and the Flummerfelt properties, they're all adjusting property lines. That's why they're part of the plat of survey. The accepted just means they're not included in the description of the plat of survey. So that's technically why they're called accepted on this document. You do not see this very often. It's very infrequent for this to even be brought to the council to see something like that. So in this very unique situation where you see lots 59 and 82 here, with an exception, it is fully surrounded by other property. Just
Can
as
you
it is
point out
now.
those two lots that you're talking about?
Yeah, they're right here where the cursor is. These two, the owner, or the representative of Flummerfelt has proposed a 20-foot easement between that combination of lot 59 and 82 back over to this other parcel. It's not part of the Plata survey. So there is the ability for someone to come and go across the Flummerfelt property between those two properties. And that was proposed by the property owner. And we, as staff, found that to be a recommended or an available option to help remedy the access issues for the site. The Plata survey doesn't address or get into any private property rights that you may or may not have for this property. And making it into one parcel doesn't change any arguments that someone has about access through or across someone's property. So we're not addressing that as the city. We're approving the consolidation of those lots into one parcel. And we believe that it meets our subdivision code to have a point of access between two parcels. We don't have any particular standard that says how or what to do for this situation. So we accepted that as staff as being consistent with the subdivision code.
Is it possible to zoom in on that a little bit so people can see what you're talking about? The yeah, because it's clearly shown that there's a 20-foot wide access easement being granted right there where it's crosshatched, correct?
Yes. And then a condition of approval, if you were to approve this tonight, is that that easement must be submitted and recorded to allow for the approval of the Plata survey to get recorded with the county.
Kelly, where does the easement go?
It's between lot 82 and lot 85, or 85 and 86.
I see that, but how does it get to a road?
Yeah.
It doesn't. It is between two properties.
So, and I apologize if I'm misreading this. Are we creating a landlocked parcel?
It already is a landlocked parcel. So the distinction here over every other survey I've ever seen is that you are working with existing lots that have no frontage on a public way. All of these lots in this subdivision are a part of an auditor plat that has no dedicated right of way. So lot 82 and lot 59 have no direct access to a public right-of-way at this point in time or at the end of this plat of survey. There's no change in that status.
I don't know what the law is on this. Can we approve a plat of survey that on its face creates landlocked parcels?
I would submit it's not creating a landlocked parcel. The parcel already exists with no access to frontage, and we are not changing that.
It's not an annexation, right? I mean, an annexation prevents you from creating an island, but other types of land action.
If we were starting from scratch, we would not create landlocked parcels. We would go through some process of either having a dedicated right of way or some other agreed upon means of access. That would be a standard of our subdivision code. What is unique here is you have 100+ landlocked parcels, landlocked lots that already exist. The rights of access are private issues because they are not on dedicated public streets.
Yeah, I just mean it's not prohibited because it's.
Yeah, I
It
apologize.
would
Nothing
be
to do with
prohibited if you were
annexation.
starting from scratch. This is an existing situation, and we don't really have a local standard that says how to address that.
So parcel, yeah, this has nothing to do with annexation. So parcel D has access.
Yeah, so parcel D is the big parcel.
Right.
Everybody that's following along, yeah.
And so, Mark, do we have, I apologize, I didn't ask you this before. And so do you have an opinion about the legality of approving this in its current form? Shouldn't we require the applicant to create legal access and not leave this parcel as landlocked?
Well, no, I believe we can do this. And I know Vicki on my staff had a discussion with the county auditor on it. So I'm convinced we can do this because, as Kelly said, these are existing landlocked lots. I mean, we're not creating landlocked lots.
So the existing, and I appreciate this, and I don't want to get in the weeds on this. We got a long meeting tonight. Each of those small lots were pre-existing lots or part of a mobile home court. But what we're doing now is we're consolidating those into a new parcel D. Parcel D has access to Lincoln Way. My question is that what's known as 59 and 82, they don't have access. And so my question is, can we approve this now in its current form, landlocking those two lots?
We're not
I don't know the answer to that.
We're not landlocking them. They are already landlocked. Nothing is changing about their status in terms of direct access to a right of way. What you see as vertical 50-foot strips are not rights of way. They are private property.
Sure.
So how does a car get to these lots?
They would be able to drive over that 20-foot access easement.
And we don't have a version of this, a map version of this, do we?
Go to Google Maps.
What do you mean by that?
See it.
A map version? What do you
Are
mean?
you-
Like
you
an
mean-
aerial?
An aerial.
It's like the
Uh,
location
It's in the,
map.
it's
that
in
There's a
the,
location map, and
this one here you're
that's
talking
a little easier to look at.
Okay.
any other questions?
I'm just wondering if 5507 has access to right of way. Doesn't look like it does.
Yeah, I think I'll Lincoln Way.
When you say
The
5507,
parcel C.
parcel C has frontage has 70 feet of frontage right here. And then it also has frontage on Lincoln Way, but its access is off that 70-foot notch.
Okay.
All right, we'll open public comment. Is someone that wants to address council tonight on this item? Can you please state your name and
Hello, Brant Lemire, 5615 Lincoln Way, Ames. the west side of Ames, where we're talking here. Thanks, Kelly, for getting us to this far here. Yes, that I don't know what other word to use. I do not want to use the argument word.
Excuse
But
me, are you
that-
are you the owner of 59 and 82? Are you representing?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
Thank you.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to get there yet. Can we pause that question for a minute?
Right.
I will answer that in a few. It's kind of a two-stage thing here that we got. Some other, something as of yesterday, there's been a little change on this 59 and 82. But before we get there,
I'm sorry, we have a very long meeting tonight, so
I
if
understand.
you could just be
Yep.
succinct in your comments, I really appreciate it.
correct, we kind of jumped the gun here. That's why,
Yep.
But historically, those roads, the access point that Mr. Garten was getting at, I use them day to day. Okay, back when it was a mobile home park, there was cars parked on that access road. There is an existing easement on there for years. That's the argument word. We're arguing here that there was an existing easement. Back in 1959, they didn't state that good of detailed easements. I purchased this property in 2003 and tried to get a modernized easement. The property owner at that time didn't like change. She was an older lady, didn't want change. And I respected that and we went on. And life has been good until just October here, when I saw that little 20-foot access point. The last 4 years or so, or number of years, visiting with Kelly at the staff different at the city staff, plus with the developer. We always were talking about this, came up many times. Right-of-way access. To me, when we say right-of-way, that's a public right-of-way. Oh, did I lose this? The public right-of-way. So this threw me by surprise here 3 weeks ago when I got this revised plat survey. I saw the same plat survey, which to me, everything looks the same, except the revised in October here with this little 20-foot jag there. Now, if I was to keep those 3 parcels forever, it'd be fine, be no problem. It would be just an access point from my one parcel to the other. Perfect. But I've been very vocal for the last 4 years since that mobile home park closed, which we don't want to get into today by any means, that we were going to probably have two or three different buyers for these parcels. Okay. And so that's why we always thought that island that we mentioned would always go to a right of way. Maybe not the existing that I use every day to get to the Lincoln Way. It could go a different direction as long as it went to a public right of way. That was my understanding up until just a couple weeks ago visiting with Kelly on this situation. So again, this is an argument that we can get into going forward. But as of yesterday, there was a warranty deed filed that 59 and 82 are sold. I have sold them. So now there's another party involved that owns that. And again, I've been, since the mobile home park closed under the controversy years ago, I've been an open book trying to sell this property. And I looked at my notes today. There's been numerous conversations I've had with the local developer. I've had nine proposals, written proposals to me. And a couple of them I begged to go through. They didn't go through. Okay. I didn't say no to all of them. There's a couple of them. I don't know why they didn't go through, but I don't want to say any more about that. But my point is, I've been reaching out, trying to sell this property or trade properties or whichever, making things work for the developer. And I'm pretty sure he'll say the same, that we've been trying to work this out. So anyway, that being said, now 59 and 82 are sold, and it's not right for me to allow access from that big parcel to him. I mean, temporarily, sure. Handshake deal, sure. But again, at the end of the day, I am selling that big parcel. So when I go to sell that, I can't sell that to somebody that's going to have restricted and limitations on what he can do and build on his property. So therefore, I believe it should come back to a right of way, a public right of way access to that 59 and 82. that so-called island.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you very much. And I'm willing to speak any more if we need, but I think that's good for now. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other comment?
I don't know what to do with this.
Wait.
Oh, you more?
You state your name, and I would ask you if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes if you could.
Brian Adams. I own the 5507 Lincoln Way, the parcel C. And I didn't know about that my property was on the meeting tonight till my neighbor informed me about this. But you had if you could switch that picture over to that aerial view again.
To the aerial?
Yeah, the satellite. So if you zoom in a little bit. where it
You're
says
in the
55
southeast corner there. Is that correct?
Yep, the lower right. So yeah, 5507, that's me. And you see in that little indent where the driveway goes, it goes up halfway to my property and goes to my garage. So when they say I have Lincoln Way access, I can't get to Lincoln Way without my driveway easement. I have a septic system and a well in between my house and the Lincoln Way that I cannot drive across. So that driveway of mine has been there since the 50s when the property is owned by a couple previous owners. Has been with the property. It got taken out by a quick claim deed. And I've been using it as easement with the rights of the previous owners and easement for over 20 years. I've owned the property since 1999. And so that's my easement to the property. If they take it away, I'll have no access to my house or my garage. That's, thank you for your
Right.
time.
Thank you for your input. Anybody else? All right, I'll close public comment. Tim, you were starting to ask a question.
Yeah. What are we doing? How do we go forward with this and leave people with these unanswered questions about access?
Well, Mr. Adams signed the application to be part of it, so I'm not sure what to do with his comment. He agreed to participate in the Plata survey process. So that's the first time I'd ever heard that comment. Legally, he has 70 feet of frontage on a right of way, which would meet our lot access standards. So what he does on private property to get conveniently to his garage, we would normally tell, just like today, if this Plata survey goes away, that is a question between two property owners about what legal access rights they have. If there's questions about whether our subdivision code requires some other version of access to a right of way, I think you'd have to table it tonight. I think Mark commented and I have commented, I guess we didn't believe that was a standard or expectation in this particular process that needed to be applied to that. If there's some other interest in this, I think you'd have to table it tonight. Otherwise, we would say that is a private property rights issue. The problem is there's a very long history here. The original auditor's plat and the original easement did not dedicate any right way. It named an individual as having rights of access, not a property. That individual no longer is involved in the property. So there's no established right of access in any easement document to any owner of property here, because that original person is not part of this any longer. So that's a kind of conversation we usually tell an owner. You need to go to court and you need to establish what your rights are through another process. The city typically, we do not adjudicate property rights for access. That's not the role of the city. We do have a subdivision code. So if you think there's a standard we're not applying correctly, that's a different question. But we do not adjudicate whether you have a right of access across someone's property, to what degree you have it, to what length you have it, how you can use it. We don't do things of that nature.
Is there a timing aspect to this request?
I don't think a short delay is really, it doesn't have zoning. So that would be after this Plata survey is done, the developer does look forward to proposing rezoning for the property and to look at a future subdivision for development. Those would all be things that'd be happening sometime this winter.
So likely these issues would come up in a future subdivision plat? Is that fair to assume?
I would say that when we get to a subdivision that breaks this out from one large parcel into multiple lots, then questions of exactly what is allowed on some of these properties is probably coming back up again.
And that's what I presume. So I don't remember ever being anything like this. So is it better to kick the can down the road and let this play out in the future? Or is there merit to having the parties resolve this now? That's my question.
I don't know that I can answer the merit question. I think the question before us is whether our local code requires anything different from this applicant than what's proposed.
And did you hear anything tonight from Mr. Lammer or Mr. Adams that caused you to have any further questions about the appropriacy of moving forward? Are there any additional questions that you have as a result of what they said?
For me, no. I don't know if Mark has a different opinion about anything. I'm not actually a lawyer, so concerns about some of these details are beyond what I normally get into. We've obviously been in consultation with the city attorney's office to get to where we are today.
So as a general principle, normally these processes have an expectation that these kind of matters are resolved, and we're not, in essence, memorializing these problems to be dealt with down the road. And so I have not seen a situation like this where we have accepted this knowing that there are going to be access problems for the parties in the future. So I'm in uncharted territory here. Part of me wants to resolve it now, and then
never
part of me
seen
wants to
anything
just
like
kick the
this.
can down the road. And
You've never seen anything like this, and you probably won't, because this was created from an auditor's plat 60 plus years ago. It is a situation that does not otherwise exist in Ames.
So, and Mark, you can correct me, it may be helpful to know what an auditor's plat is. So normally if people want to subdivide their property, they have to go through a formal subdivision platting process. If they don't, and they end up, in essence, materially using the property as if there was a plat, the auditor can require them to file an auditor's plat. So the disadvantage to that is it does not have the recognized formalities and protections that a subdivision plat does. Am I doing okay with that? Okay. So that's the difference in, if you wonder why we got here, that auditor's plat didn't have the kind of due diligence that we would require or see. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, and I guess the issue of lot 59 and 82 potentially having a different owner, it really changes nothing, because if this boundary line adjustment was to disappear, that new owner has the same question of access that would exist whether this is approved or not. Because again, that lot C is not anything. It's a piece of private property. So the new buyer is in the same position as Mr. Lemire, that it is unclear how you have access to your property.
So Kelly, just to be clear, you said that originally there were individuals named as having.
It's my understanding, right?
And the individuals are dead. So we don't have that right established. So if an easement were established between these two properties today, that sort of easement travels with the properties?
Yeah, the draft that I've seen, it says, I'm not going to get the complete legal description right. Let's say it recognizes that the successors and assigns of the owners of lot 82 and lots 85 and 86 have the right to pass across Mike Flummerfeld's land. And so because of the way that's phrased, it's not to Mr. Smith to come and go as he pleases. It's to the owners of those properties. So it's a proper easement.
So we're going to learn a lot of language, legal language tonight. That's called an appertenant easement. It means that the easement runs with the ground. It's very interesting. The other easements we'll call an easement in gross. It's with the particular person and does not run with the ground. So this is all a mess.
Okay. Is there a motion to either table or to proceed?
So Mark, just to clarify, do you or Vicky have any reservations about us going forward? I assume you would tell us if you did, but I would like to just get this clarified because I'll propose to accept it and go on, and then we'll just someone will deal with this down the road.
No, we do not.
Good. All right, I'll move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Rollins.
Aye.
Garten.
Aye.
Junk. Aye. Betcher.
Aye.
Beatty Hansen.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Mark. All right, move on to public forum. This is time we set aside for comments from the public for topics that are not on city business, but not on the agenda. I'm going to open a public forum. Is there anyone who wants to address council tonight under public forum? Travis?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Travis Tolliver with the Ames Alliance and Ames Main Street. Just want to remind you and the viewing public to shop local this holiday season. And of course, there's no better place to shop local than in Ames. And Ames Main Street will be hosting a small business weekend next Friday through Monday, both in downtown and in Campus Town. So just encourage Ames shoppers to go to our website, downtownames.org, to get a list of participating businesses and enjoy their shopping in Ames during the holiday season. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Travis.
I saw Travis out cleaning up the flower boxes the other morning at like 8 a.m. And I just wanted to say thank you. And you are so dedicated to our downtown. And anyway, I just wanted to make sure I gave you props.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Enjoy the holidays.
Thank you.
Yep.
You too.
Anybody else want to address council on?
Good evening, Mahmoud Gishash, Darul Arqam Islamic Center. I'm here just to connect with the Islamic Center and maybe introduce the audience to myself and the Islamic Center here in Ames. My name is Mahmoud Gishash. I am the chair of the Public Relation Committee at Darul Arqam Islamic Center. I've been in Ames for 10 years. That's a third of my life. I loved it. I did my bachelor's at Iowa State, and I'm finishing my PhD in electrical engineering. Ames is a great place, and I encourage a lot of people to come here and leave the big city, to be honest. A little bit of a history about Darul Arqam Islamic Center. I'm sorry, I'm tall, so the mic is a little low.
It's hard.
Darul Arqam Islamic Center started from a group of MSA, Muslim Student Association students at Iowa State University, who gathered to pray in a house on Michigan Avenue. And nowadays we have our own purpose-built building at 1212 Iowa. We have 2 Friday services. We serve people from Gilbert, Nevada, and actually most of West Iowa. We have people come from Carroll, Iowa, to pray in our Islamic Center. We also hold an Islamic school on Saturdays, and we have about 100+ students. So we are happy to have people. Definitely the Muslim population in Ames has grown since 1985 when people were praying in a small house. Many of our congregation are students at Iowa State University, but we have faculty members, doctors at Mary Greeley, business owners in Ames that contribute to the diversity of the community here in Ames. Our founders, the people who worked on the building, had a great connection with the city council, and they guided them for permitting and all the legal things to acquire the land, etc. And I'm here to reestablish that connection with you guys, and we'll be happy to contribute to the community in Ames in educational, volunteering work, etc. And I invite you and the audience here and online to come and visit us at 1212 Iowa Avenue, or if you have any questions, reach out to me, Mahmoud Gishash at pr@arqam.org. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll close public forum. We'll move on to number 31, residential curbside recycling program. Justin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're going to discuss a residential curbside recycling program. You may recall about 3 months ago, we were in front of you with the initial outline of that program. At that meeting, you asked us to get some public feedback and come back to you in the future. And we're here tonight to talk through a few of the items, looking for some direction. 5 items in particular, which we'll go through specifically. And then we will put together an RFP looking for pricing from contractors to provide the service for the community. And it's important to remember the reason we're doing this, because as we transition away from the waste to energy system, we need to continue to divert waste materials from the landfill. That also includes hauling to Carroll County, as we know, which will be very pricey. So we need to limit what we're doing there. And the DNR also charges us per ton based upon how much we recycle. So if we divert material from the landfill, we pay less. And all this aligns with the council's climate action goals of really looking at reducing the carbon output from the power plant itself as we look and move away from waste to energy and into this program. So I'll turn it over to Nolan Sagan, who's our sustainability coordinator, who's done a lot of work on this, and he'll walk you through some of the 5 items we have here.
Thanks, Justin. We'll start with the survey results. So the survey was open for the month of September. We pushed this out on all of our different methods that we use to communicate with the community and got quite a few responses back. It was overwhelmingly supportive of a curbside recycling program. We heard, supportive of the curbside part, supportive of drop-off sites, maintaining those. And then a few concerns. Our top 3 barriers that were identified in the survey are cost, having space for the carts, and then uncertainty about the materials, what types of plastic we accept, and what condition the materials need to be in to accept. So we would target those topics for education and engagement as we move forward. And then our first issue is the level of access. So we have 4 options here, starting at the bottom there with option D. That's our current approach. What we currently do is offer drop-off only and no city involvement in curbside recycling, essentially leaving it up to the haulers to run the program. Option C, and then moving up to A, increases the access. It increases the expected participation and diversion from the program. So starting with option C, this would purely be opt-in, so only residents who choose to participate in the program would receive a cart and would be charged for the program. So this would result in higher fees than the other 2 options, as only the folks participating would be paying for the program. And then under options A and B, the cost for the program would be spread throughout the entire community. And as an aside, we say eligible residents there. That includes residents living in residential properties that are 4 units or less. So we'll talk a little bit more about the multifamily housing and 5 units or more later, but for eligible residents and for this universal access and charge that we're talking about, that's for residents living in 4 units or less, and that's about 60% of our housing here in Ames. So under option B, as I mentioned, the cost would be spread against all eligible residents, and then only those who opt in would receive a cart to participate. And then option A is what staff is recommending, would greatly increase that participation by providing everyone a cart. That's universal access for everyone receiving a cart and being charged for the program. And as you can see, it would dramatically increase, the amount of diversion that we would see from the program.
Nolan, can you
Let's go through all 5, and then we can cycle back. Okay, that way
Thank
you
you.
get a complete picture. Thank you.
Okay.
Sounds good. Option number 2, kind of another fundamental question about how the program is structured. So we have A and B. A would be a citywide contract with 1 provider to run the program. And then option B would to be require existing haulers to offer curbside recycling as a service. So there are 2 of 7 existing haulers that currently offer the service. And we would say if you want to be licensed as a waste hauler at Ames, that you must offer curbside recycling also. So this option B would result in more trucks out there on the road, varying services, varying rules about recycling, depending on who your hauler is. And then we wouldn't be able to track those diversion rates, which, as Justin mentioned, is important for the DNR. Which is why we're recommending option A, where the city would place that fee for the program on your city utilities bill. We would gain some efficiencies by contracting with just 1 provider. So that would result in lower fees. And then consistent rules citywide, that's a big deal too. We could communicate and through our education and outreach and have 1 consistent set of rules for the program. And then option A, a citywide contract would also enable the city to own the carts. So a few options here for cart ownership. A and B would result in city-owned carts, and then C would be contractor-owned. So C would be more of a turnkey approach where the contractor would bring in their carts and maintain ownership. The main issue with option C is that if we had to switch contractors in the future, that would result in pretty significant costs and disruptions to service if all of those carts had to be switched out. So under the city-owned model, there's two options depending on who buys the carts, either through the contractor or through the city. So if the contractor were to procure the carts, we'd spread that cost out over the life of the contract, about 5 years, adding about $1 in cost per household per month. And then under the city procured model, we could spread it over a longer period of time, about 10 years. But then the city would also be responsible for putting up that capital, almost $1 million in capital for those carts, which is why staff recommends option A, is because that onus for the capital goes onto the contractor, and they're essentially pass-through costs for the service. And then frequency of service, you generally see communities provide biweekly or weekly service, and doing research, talking to other communities, they've had success with the every other week model. It saves on costs and higher efficiency for the program through fuller bins and fewer trips compared to weekly. And then cart size, this was not in the August staff report for cart size, but we added it in here based on the survey results. We heard a lot of concern from folks about where am I going to put this cart, and it's too big. So looking at options for smaller carts and the implications of that. So a uniform cart size would greatly simplify the operations for the program. We wouldn't be having to switch out carts and maintain a stock of 2 different cart sizes. And then the larger cart also enables space for more recyclables, as we mentioned with the every other week. Having space for those bulky items like cardboard and plastic tubs and those things, we feel would be important to have the larger cart, but it may be larger than necessary for some people. So our recommendation is to simplify the initial rollout of the program with the uniform large carts, and then we could gauge demand after the initial rollout and potentially consider a smaller option down the road if we are seeing that consistent high demand for that option.
All right, let's cycle back to the first point then. Anita, did you have a question?
I just had one quick question, just about the data there and how you came to those numbers of participation rates and diversion rates. Just tell us where the data came from.
Sure. Yeah, these are based on 3 different studies from national communities. So these are not Iowa specific. These are based on a lot of assumptions and should be treated as general estimates. Our actual results will probably vary.
Okay. Thank you.
Nolan, this is new for our community. There's a learning curve. We're going to do a lot of education. So we have carrots and we have sticks. Those are our 2 tools. And so if people say, you know what, I'm just not doing this, forget you. Are there any enforcement aspects of this that's being proposed?
I think what you'd see is, to your point about the carrot and stick, we're really looking for, compliance and not necessarily punishing anybody that maybe doesn't want to do it. So what we would see is if we roll the carts out to everyone in the community and it was being used for just garbage, say they treat it as a separate garbage container, what we would likely do is try to talk with that resident. And if that wasn't successful and it continued to be used as a garbage container, we'd likely just take it away. Because that service isn't doing anything. Once we put it into the recycling with the rest of the truck that's picking it up, we then contaminate all the rest of that recycling. So we want to minimize that as much as possible. So I think what we would try to do is educate first, work with the resident, and if it's not successful, we would probably just say, well, we probably can't have a cart there if you're going to use it for refuse. If that's what you want to have, then you probably need a second cart for refuse, and we take the recycling away. If that makes sense.
We wouldn't fine.
And so then they say, fine, take away my recycling cart. I didn't like it anyway. And so they just put all of their recycling in with the regular trash. How do we prevent that? And what do we do?
That's going to be part of the education challenge that we have. So as you've mentioned, we've never done this before. The history here over 50 years has been we put everything into the trash and it goes away. It gets recycled at the Resource Recovery Center in kind of that fashion. Now we're asking you to separate it. So really we've got to educate people, and that's what we would be doing from the time that you gave us a go on this. We start putting together this RFP is we start the education now. and continue it through until the program starts and continue even after the program starts, because we're going to have to be in all sorts of places educating people on how it goes. We're probably going to have some missteps during it, but that's part of the growing process of getting into it. We've looked at lots of different communities, especially in Iowa, that have done this, have done it successfully for years, and try to build off those pieces that they have and say, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. People have already done this in other places. We just have to get used to it in our community. So I think there'll be a little bit of a growing pain. That individual that decides they just don't want to use it, that's going to be an individual choice that we're going to probably struggle with always. There's probably going to be some individuals that we're not going to be able to reach. But I think for the most part, what we're seeing in our survey results is that a lot of people are excited about this based off our usage of our recycling at the Resource Recovery Center outside of that area there. There's a lot of usage of that there. So while there will be a few that won't use it, we won't get everybody. As the survey says there, you get 75% of the people under option A. So there still might be 25% that don't do anything with it. That would just be garbage in that case. And so that's what we're going to be up against.
And so are there cities that fine people for not recycling? Is that a thing?
There are. That is an option that council could look at if that's something that you would desire to do. So we could talk through that as we build into the program with the RFP. If you would like to see some punitive measures that way, we could do that. I think we'd start with the education like we always do. I think it's been more effective. I think Nolan's done some study on this, that there's much more effectiveness when you have that more carrot than the stick. You're still going to get a few that aren't going to do it. And if we find continual bad actors and challenges, we would probably just pull that card away from them.
And so the last question I had, at least right now, is just such a large percentage of our population live in high density residential areas. So of the garbage that we process each year, do we know what percentage is coming from properties that would be served by this and those that are served by, is that something we even know?
We're pretty close. It's probably about 60% that comes in from residential single family, and then there's 40% that doesn't. So there's a large population that doesn't. And our concern, if trying to roll this out with them as well, is there's a lot more opportunity for contamination in those larger areas, because we likely will see there'll be some sort of a dumpster or a roll-off that goes into those locations. And we have to work through things such as, fencing and screening for those things like we have in our zoning ordinances, and work with those properties to make sure we get it done right. Iowa State has some places where they do this that we're looking to model after as well. I would say we're just not at that point right now to do that, but it's going to be right on the heels of this because we need to capture that other 40% as well.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Yeah,
Other
could you
questions?
just explain the eligible residents, what that means?
Yeah, so I think the eligible residence is anybody that's in, right now under the residential curbside is in 4 units or less. That's what we're looking at. So if you're more than 5 units, we consider that more multifamily housing. And those are the ones that we're going to work. You'll see at the end of this presentation, we have an option for a pilot program that we want to work on, get some direction from council so we can find the right solution for those. And some of those might be, we have to find individual solutions for individual properties, but we're open to that and want to work through that.
Other questions? Want to go to number 2?
So,
Any questions on provider?
So to what degree did we get feedback from our haulers?
So we've had conversations with numerous haulers have reached out to us as they've known we've talked through this when we first introduced it in August. There's probably been 3 or 4 haulers that have reached out to it expressing interest about it. So we have not talked directly or sought their input on what the RFP might look like, but that's part of this program as we're building this before we put it out on the street to make sure we're putting together something that makes sense for us, but is also economically viable. Something that we're going to see, a program that will establish the goals that you want to see happen also at an economical price.
But I apologize, maybe you said this already, Justin. Did we intentionally reach out to the haulers? There's only a handful of these people. Did we reach out, I think like a dozen of them? Did we intentionally reach out and say, this is what we're considering? Do you have input?
I don't know that we've intentionally done that yet, no.
2 of the 7 existing haulers currently offer it. You say?
I believe there's 2 or 3 that offer it.
Okay.
Yeah, see up there it says 2. So
It seems like I recall from the last time we had the discussion, and a number of the haulers were here, that some of them said they weren't interested in scaling up to also handle recyclables. So I'm assuming that an RFP would reach the ones that are already set for that, and that the others would be looking at whatever our continuing waste hauler policy turns out to be.
But the problem with that is that there were a lot of smaller ones. And so if we go with a citywide hauler, then we're not giving those smaller ones an opportunity. I just don't understand why we didn't reach out to them to get input.
Well, logically, if they were interested in doing recycling, they'd be doing it right now and offering it as additional service. There's only 2, I think, that are offering it right now. So
Yeah, and how would that work with the 2 that are if we implement like a single
They would be-
citywide contract?
Like we'd put out the RFP and whoever is interested would bid and we'd pick a winner of that bid.
Okay, so then the other one would have to stop recycling?
Yep. But I mean, I think, just as a staff have outlined the reasons why they feel like that's the move we need to go in, right? It's consistent. We can offer consistent customer service through the city. I mean, basically, like we would take on that role. We would take on the role of the billing, right? Which we could not do if there were. Now, we could do more than one potential contract, I guess. So we could chunk up the city and say half of it goes to hauler A, half of it goes to hauler B.
I think those things are possible. I think if the city does not control the contract, we can't say where the waste goes, or excuse me, I said that wrong, where the recycling goes. We can't dictate that like we can with municipal solid waste. We can dictate where that goes, but we cannot dictate where recycling goes. So it can go anywhere. And at that point in time, we also lose the ability to probably really track our diversion rates. So when the DNR asks us, how much are you landfilling and how much are you recycling, those are really difficult to track down. So that's one of the reasons why a single community-wide hauler is important to us.
and that has cost implications for the city, correct?
On the diversion rates, yes, correct. If the more we divert, the less we pay to the DNR.
Thank you. All right, number 3. Any questions on cart ownership? Number 4. Frequency.
Now, is this, okay, so you're recommending every other week with, at least to start, like no option for more frequent?
No, I don't think we would go for more frequent. What we would say is if you have more recycling, then you can handle every other week. We'd recommend a second cart. Because it's easier to give you a second cart that can be picked up at the same time than it is to have that custom service that way, because then we start adding a lot of cost.
Sure, that makes sense. Thank you.
Carts, number 5. Any questions on cart size? All right.
Then we just had 2 related items. So the multifamily recycling pilot that we mentioned, we're requesting $20,000 from the council priorities fund for a multifamily recycling project where the city could offer some technical assistance and a cost match to interested multifamily properties to pilot this, kind of figure out, what the hurdles would be. And then we can use that information to hopefully broaden the multifamily recycling market here in Ames. And then also Story County. So as Justin mentioned, we have this obligation to divert material now and pass that obligation on to our partner communities in Story counties. And we've been in discussion with them about this. So we structure the RFP in a way that those communities could tag on and use that same structure if they wanted to, or develop their own method for diversion, which would likely involve a roll-off container for drop-off recycling.
Did you mention timeline, or did I miss that? Or
And then timeline that we're looking at maybe as soon as July of 2026 to roll this out. We would return likely in January with a contract recommended award. Then we would also need an ordinance in between here and then to establish the program, and then hopefully next summer to roll it out.
any questions regarding these 3 topics? All right, open up public input. Is there anyone who wants to address council on this topic tonight? If so, you're welcome to come to the podium, introduce yourself, and ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. My name is Thor Nelson. I'm Executive Vice President at Aspen Waste Systems. We are one of the 2 haulers that currently provide the service in the community. I'd first of all like to thank the council for focusing on the most positive impact issues in solid waste right now. That is number 1, the transfer station, which is a good project for the community and we're fully supportive of. And then as well as the recycling rates and focusing on recycling specifically. I'd also like to commend staff. I've seen a number of city reports. I think they did a very good job of identifying the key considerations, and it was sound research and a sound report. I haven't been able to say that about every city. I think they did a nice job. I just have one more comment. There are a number of haulers that have been in this community for a long time, serving residents on the trash side. There's only 2 of us that are doing recycling right now. Our fear is that an outsider could come in and try to lowball a bid, an outsider who's never cared about this community ever. It's a fear because we've seen it happen time and again. And I would just request that if the city chooses to pursue an RFP for a single hauler, that there are criteria that are established that are in addition to price and that give the city flexibility to make a decision on more than price. I think experience in the community matters, experience providing service in the community, having local employees, local facilities in the community. I think it's demonstrated historical investment in this community. And we would like to see criteria such as those incorporated in the RFP if that's a decision the city chooses to make. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions too.
Thank you, Thor. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Hello, thank you for your time tonight. My name is Caitlin Leon. On behalf of the Ames Climate Action Team, I'd like to thank the city council persons as well as our city government for all the work that you guys have put into this. As we know, the model of waste to energy in that system, while at its inception, it was a great idea. It has not kept up with the change of our waste. And so it's very important for us to maintain the ability to be forward thinking about the climate action plan and future plans for handling our waste in the future. So not only that, it aligns with the climate action plan, but it also continues to be a cost burden to taxpayers if we do continue with our current model. So I'm glad to hear that we're phasing that out because of the required maintenance and its reliance on natural gas. Ames continues to show its commitment to forward thinking by committing to a more modern approach to our ever-evolving waste stream. With these proposed changes to hauling waste, reducing, reusing, and recycling is going to be paramount, as we know. And we're encouraged by our community's overwhelming support, as seen in the survey results, for single stream curbside recycling. ACAT would also like to emphasize the importance of choosing a single hauler versus multiple to minimize total emissions. And this includes taking into account road damage from larger trucks and the number of trips with smaller ones. ACAT supports the city manager's recommendation on 1A and 1B in regards to implementing and requiring an option for single stream recycling throughout the city to divert waste as we transition from waste to energy and into more cost-effective and climate-friendly alternatives. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Is anybody else? All right, I'll close public comment. Justin, any comment on Thor's input regarding criteria for selection that be included in the RFP?
I think it's important that we, when we look at that, the reason why we would do a request for proposals versus just a formal bid would be so that way council staff can make recommendations to council on some of those softer item issues, such as customer service, such as how you provide that service to the community, those items that are not necessarily cost-based. That you might have experience with someone versus someone you don't know. So we'd like to have that flexibility, which is the reason we're pursuing that RFP, so council could have that option if they so choose.
So you wouldn't need a separate motion in order to do that in the RFP.
No, I think by allowing us to pursue an RFP, we would look at not only qualifications but also cost and bring that recommendation back to you.
Okay.
Any closing questions?
I want to just continue to express reservation respectfully about the fact that we did not pursue feedback from the individual haulers. The fact that they currently don't provide that service is really irrelevant, because under the current model, we don't have a recycling program like this. So it's apples and oranges. So it may be that someone who is a local hauler would want to give input, but we didn't ask for their input. We got feedback from